Okay, thank you very much for joining us today. Very excited to present today around complex migrations as easy as 1, 2, 3 with TMC and Xillio. So thank you everyone who's been involved in putting this presentation together, the team at the migration company, the team at Xillio, and of course, last but not least, all the attendees. Thank you very much for coming. It wouldn't be an event without you. So without further ado, we'll jump straight in. So just a quick introduction, presenting today myself, Rufissa. I'm the founder and CEO of the migration company, and also the Good Stack, which is a FinOps financial operations consultancy company, and the migration company, technology consulting company, focused predominantly around large enterprise, mid-range enterprise migrations, focused on application infrastructure and content. Today, obviously, we're going to be deep diving into our content migration capability that is powered by Xillio, and we'll also look at some other interesting developments within the migration company at the moment. So my co-presenter, Sjoerd, will introduce himself now.
Yes, thank you, Ru. Hey, everybody. My name is Sjoerd Alkema. I'm responsible for our content services worldwide within Xillio, and that's where we deliver our migration services and software from. I've been around in the content management area for about 15 years, had different roles in consulting and product companies, and now with Xillio for around 6 years already, and very happy to be here and tell you a little bit about us. So back to you, Ru. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction, Sjoerd. Good. So just for those who've joined, a little bit of an overview about the migration company and what we do as a company, just to set the scene and to give you a little bit of a context as to where we come from. So the migration company was founded in 2008. We've grown and become quite an established name in the Australian market, and we also have some presence in the UK and looking to expand further out into new markets this year. So 4 key service pillars that we focus on in the migration company, namely discover, migrate, manage, and secure. So within our discovery service, this is really about us coming in and understanding your business requirements, understanding what problems your organization is facing, and coming in and looking at those from a technical and a business perspective. So we have a number of solutions accelerators in this pillar that really puts our service in a league of its own. So things like discovery tools that can help us get a really deep insight into your existing IT landscape, and then some of the world-class business analysts, data analysts. Some of the people in our team have been doing that kind of work for 20 plus, 30 plus years. So really a robust and experienced offering there. So from a migration perspective, obviously we've mentioned we focus on application infrastructure and data migrations. Today's session is focused around our capability in the data migration space, powered by Xillio. We've spent a lot of time in working on our process and our technology and curating the best partners with the best tools, and employing the best people to make sure that we give customers the most cost-effective and most efficient migration on the market today. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we've focused our energy on delivering that promise to the market. In that migration space, we also do things like refactoring, re-architecting, application transformation, and modernization. Within the manage pillar, this is really looking at how we can optimize your destination environment post the migration, making sure that things like your financials in terms of adoption and usage don't sprawl out of control, that you're getting the best value out of your new investments. Things like managed services for operational, cloud backup, etc., all within this piece too. And then a really big area for us in the manage is, once we help customers land in their new destination, they very often and frequently want to do new things. So working very extensively in big data, analytics, AI, ML, and IoT. So some really exciting projects there. So the final pillar, security. Obviously, security is a big topic, and we are proud to deliver some leading capabilities in this space too. So from a risk and security and compliance perspective, doing high level engagements around compliance policies, privacy, data security, all of that high level consulting, all the way down to operational and managed security services, all backed by world-class vendor products around networks and firewalls and SD-WAN, just to name a few. So a pretty comprehensive offering, really helping businesses through a transformation phase with a rich, deep experience in delivering these kinds of engagements. What we've been doing, focusing around our initial promise to the market back in 2018 when we founded the company, was to deliver 40% faster migrations. And the reason why we could make that promise back in 2018 when we started the company is because I led the BHP South32 demerger migration stream, which was still to date one of the largest migrations in Australian history. And through that engagement, the volume of learning in terms of accelerating and delivering against extremely tight timelines was phenomenal, and that's ultimately what led me to found and create the migration company, because that knowledge I believed had to be shared wider than that experience there. So we've continued to invest in that promise, the 40% faster migration promise, to really see how far we can take that and what we can actually do to improve on that promise and take things to the next level. And ultimately that has led to our product called Lightning Flow, which I would like to introduce to everyone who's attended today, and this will then lead into how we also empower our partner Xillio in their migration projects. So as I mentioned, this was developed over a period of time, really to help us increase migration performance and efficiency. So one of the common challenges when we look at a migration is, especially to the cloud, is bandwidth. It's the ability to move huge volumes of data from a on-premise environment or a private data center environment into a cloud platform, and every time the bottleneck and where the delay sits, it's in throughput over the internet connection to those cloud environments. Obviously, Lightning Flow has much larger use cases, much wider areas of adoption, but today we're focusing on the migration use case, and really we've been doing a number of testing around this product and getting different results ranging from between 70 to 98% performance increase, depending on the workloads and environmental variables. But overall, we've increased that market promise up to 70%. So from a migration perspective and in a wide area network perspective, up to 98%, which is pretty phenomenal. So we're looking at solving this bandwidth versus data growth problem in this area. So in a nutshell, we think Xillio is a fantastic product for content migrations, and Sjoerd will talk more about that. Obviously, the migration company is a proud partner here and overseas, and our services around the product, are well established and best in class. For clients with huge data volumes and connectivity constraints between data centers, adding Lightning Flow into the mix just creates a much better outcome in terms of cost and time to value. So very proud to work with Xillio on this initiative. Thank you. And over to you, Sjoerd.
Yes, thank you. Let me share my screen. Let me know if you can see it. I think Lightning Flow explains why we're so excited about this partnership, and it's spot on in terms of what we need in current days with large volume migrations, and specifically where we are specialized in, and that's the larger, complex, big legacy implementations, migrations. Very excited about that. To go over my part of the presentation, and I wanted to also share, if there are any questions in between, there's this chat box, and you can put them in and we try to answer them maybe right away, or otherwise we have some Q&A time at the end. I wanted to introduce you to Xillio quickly, what we do, where we come from, what our mission is, and what solutions around the migration we have in the market. Then to look at what we're doing and how we're handling things, how we really make those migrations as easy as 1, 2, 3. I also want to touch on some market developments that are happening. We've got a proven approach. We've been doing it for quite some time, and we think that's the way to do. So I'll share on that and to show some real experience on some projects and some good practice tips and tricks that you can take home. There's a little demo video. I also want to show you the product in live action, and as I said, some Q&A if there are any. So about Xillio, we were founded in the Netherlands, here in the center actually. So that's also where I'm in the middle of the night currently, but happy to be part of this webinar. And this is our little office there, and it was 2004 when we were founded. And it's good to have as a context that we started as a services organization. So we were a bunch of consultants, smart guys with a toolkit doing migrations. So since then we have been doing migrations using third-party products and anything that we could find just to service our customers. And a lot of times this meant customization, or we needed to develop something in-house. And doing that for quite some time, we found what would really be a good tool to handle all those migrations, because every migration is different, every system is implemented in a different way, you have different challenges. So what we created is really a consulting toolkit to handle migrations, and that's what we productized. So that's a differentiator between the one-to-one mapping tools. It's really a product that can handle all and is specifically created for that. Also in the product, 60 connectors to different systems that we encounter worldwide. We've done a bunch, 250 at least. We recently launched our USA office. We are worldwide represented through partners. But our USA office also has some local expertise, because we see there is also this wave going on of legacy migrations. It's very much needed. We are Microsoft Content Services and Viva partner, which was recently launched. Very excited about that, and we see basically that Microsoft on the collaboration side kind of won, and so good to be a partner there. Our mission, and it has been for quite some time, and my mission personally probably as well, even before Xillio, we want to help organizations to a modern content services landscape. And most of the times they move from you can call it legacy, from other content services systems, but we want to move them and do that to maximize the value they can get from their content and their content processes. And of course, using the partnership, we can do it even faster, very much faster, so that helps. But the idea is to move people to a more modern situation where they can benefit fully from those modern solutions. I already touched on that. We've got, and also there might be some logos here you recognize. This is a subset. The most important ones, if we look at the real large legacy environments, are Document and FileNet, OpenText. So these big suites, LiveLink, that have been implemented when it really started with digitization, right? And they are now at the point that they want to move out to a more modern solution. So that's what we are focusing on. If you look at the migration process, I always like to talk about it, what we do and how we use different tools within our platform to do it, by showing the ETL process. So every migration basically comes down to an ETL process, right? You need to extract data, you need to transform. You probably want to, because you want to restructure or add some metadata, add some value, and then you need to load into the new target environment. However, very important, we find, and very much necessary in every migration, is the analysis step. So we created specific consulting tool for that. It's called Insights, Xillio Insights. It's part of the platform, and it gives you a dashboard where you can really discover the data you have and dynamically go through it together with your business or together with different departments in your organization, really to assess what you have and to make the right decisions on the migration. So you can select the criteria out, you can take duplicates out, you can add metadata, restructure, anything you can do in a transformation, you derive from that. When you've got that, it's all built in the migration builder. So that's a real flexible environment, and you'll see our interface towards it in the demo. It's a integrated development environment. We allow always for some scripting as well. We standardized a lot, allow for scripting, because there are always exceptions. That's our experience. So that's one of the key strengths of the platform. Very important is our unified data model. So all the connectors we have to all the systems, they map into our unified data model. So it's our way of looking at that enterprise content management system. So if you have FileNet, we always know how to report on what's in FileNet, or how to show insights, because we understand and we map that data model to our data model. It makes it easy also to have multiple sources and one target, or to have one source and multiple targets, situations that we both can handle easily, because we also always have our unified data model in the middle. Another, I think, interesting, or something we recently launched is the redirection service. It's used almost in every large legacy migration. I will touch on it later as well, but it allows you to keep links to documents that are all alive, because it redirects, and it also allows you to do deltas of large environments, and point a user that has been migrated already to the new situation while he is maybe still in the old, but you don't get any issues there because he's redirected. That's a very interesting product. It's also part of the platform. And reporting, very important, especially with these large environments. And we can do that continuously, but of course at the end you have a report. We call it a migration audit trail, where you have an overview of what was in, what happened to it, and where is it now, per document or per object if you want. So that's the process. Some market developments we currently see that have been impacting, I think, that mostly have been causing a large demand in these migrations. One is Microsoft 365, that they're basically the winner, and I mean, they were always, of course, there with their SharePoint, which is part of Microsoft 365. But now we see that they are working on making it possible to also move these ECM suites that have been around for quite some time, that have a capture component, right? That's what they recently launched with Cortex, one of the first products within Cortex. It's now called Viva. It's the other logo in the Microsoft 365 logo. Is Syntax, which is a capturing solution, right? So they are now moving towards a situation where they allow for also those more structured processes with capture, etc., to be part of Microsoft 365. So we see that makes organizations choose to move their legacy environment to that target, and makes it easier to choose, because they have it already, most of them, and now it's really possible to also replace those implementations. And another one is this virus that we're all experiencing and all the issues with it. It's an accelerator we see. Again, combined with products that are out there, combined, of course, with already moving towards the cloud, but it's really an accelerator, and making sure that everybody can do his work still, even from home. We see that's driving these migrations as well currently. Another big one we see is that there's more trust in cloud records management, and records management is quite specific for our business. It's really the compliance factor in working with your documents, retaining it for a certain amount of years or not, and destroying it when it's due. These things have typically been starting in these old legacy, current legacy platforms, and have always been hesitated towards the cloud, I think, or hesitating to move towards the cloud. We of course have solutions on that as well, but also Microsoft is working on that. And I think there's a lot of trust that works. So we see on-premise moving to cloud because of that development. And again, that's one of the drivers. So yeah, then you have decided to do a migration, your document management system that you have been using for already 15 years maybe, and then you will find there are some challenges, because a document, it's just the tip of the iceberg, right? If you just look at it from a technical perspective as what is in the system, then one document already has a lot of other things you need to take into account. Metadata, most of the times there's custom metadata, there's system metadata, there are binaries, multiple versions, relations between documents, between folders in the system, maybe between other systems. Of course, permissions you need to take into account. Big one always in terms of complexity. Structure that you have, the audit trail and audit data. Maybe there's workflows, maybe there's retention, and there can be numbers of other things that come into play when you think about just migrating a document. So this is where we all this is where we discover on. So it's not just how many documents do you have in your system. Our tool really takes out all these other aspects of a document and gives you the insight that you need to make the right decision for the migration. And if you then specifically look at these large legacy migrations, so I call them legacy migrations, but it's really the implementations of a suite, right? So examples are the FileNet, LiveLink, Documentum. These migrations have specifics, and these are a few of them, specific challenges. So they are most of the times quite heavy on the processes, heavy on workflow, and heavy on data, the volume, because they've been around for quite some time and they've been accumulating. And back in the days, also when I was starting as a consultant doing implementations, yeah, the idea was you have one system in your organization around content processes, and we need to capture all the processes that there are in that system, which led to a lot of customization because it never was possible. And now we know, I think, that in a content services architecture, you have different applications doing different services for your business. Just use what is good for a type of process. But back then it was get everything in, which led to these challenges of customizations, but also that there are a lot of processes in it. So you have to take that into account when migrating. It's most of the times older technology. Sometimes there's issues with the database being used, etc. So we have also different techniques for that. One of the key drivers when this all started, the digitization, was regulatory compliance, right? So many of these systems are heavy on that, and there is a lot of fear we feel, and it's getting less because, as I showed, the trust is getting there, that it's being handled the same way in the cloud, but there's fear that there's not suitable targets for that. So what we think to also take some challenges away, or issues that customers might feel that there are, we offer a compliant migration. So we make sure that on the migration side that everything is covered. So we capture the audit trail, we are fully transparent on the process, and we call that a compliant migration. Another challenge with these legacy systems and migrations is that there are a lot of dependencies with other applications. They are implemented as a central repository, from a central repository thinking. So many times there are many connected apps and processes, and that takes time to disentangle, but also there's some techniques to not have to do that, like the redirection service. So there's an app pointing to a document through a link. We want to keep that alive during the migration, and in a more controllable way, take those out or change that or not, and keep the redirection running. What we see many times is that there's a 24/7 availability requirement, that they're being used 24/7 around the clock, with large systems being used worldwide, for instance, or just automated processes that end up, and you need to take that into account as well. So we have some techniques for that. So on these, how we make them still easy, because it's I mean, easy as 1, 2, 3. Sometimes you have different challenges, but we never failed a migration, that's for sure. And we found in our experience that we really have the full set of capabilities and tools to make them as easy as 1, 2, 3. But it comes with a lot of experience and doing these migrations. So on the processes, what's very important there are many workflows, there's a lot of data. What's important is that part of the analysis, you also take into account those workflows and those processes, really to determine what you want to do with that. And analysis is important to really determine the value and the approach of your migration. You can have multiple targets, so that's something to think of. It doesn't need to be a one-to-one. You can split it up. You can take some of that sales documentation out and move that to Salesforce. You can move the old documentation to archives that you might have in place. It's really something to think about. There's also techniques to migrate active workflows. It's a challenge, but we have experience with that with different combinations of systems. I think with most of the known large suites, we have experience with that. And of course, large volumes, and sometimes it's petabytes. We need a fully scalable product, so that's what we have. But now, with the partnership with the migration company, as Ruud just explained, we're even faster, and which is very exciting, and very excited to see how to develop to really move those petabyte environments to the cloud. Compliancy. So there's a migration audit trail, as I just explained. We have a fully transparent process. And because it's so important, I have it twice. There's a migration audit trail. Now, so I will explain it as part of the demo as well, but it's very important, and it gives you the trust from the business as well that we know what we're doing, that everything is in control, which is very important. Dependencies on other applications. So the redirection service I explained, we allow for delta migrations, and how our platform is set up with our unified data model. A delta migration can be set up based on any data point that you would want. So of course, data points that make sense, or the modification date, or that it's created. But sometimes there are different scenarios, or you want to combine, and it's quite easy to create that. So we're flexible on how you see a delta, and that's very helpful in these migrations. We support a phased approach. Actually, this is one of our preferred approaches when we talk about large volumes. And there's also the option to do a hybrid migration. And what we call hybrid is that we start with a sync as well. So you keep two systems in sync while you, in a controlled way, take out different processes or take out different applications that are integrated. Sometimes it's just the complexity is more on that than just on the migration. So we start with setting up the flow, keep things in sync, and then when we cut off, move it over. So those are different techniques to handle those challenges. Let me continue. Because now what I've been talking about is mostly on the technical side, right? But it's really more than just technical challenges. So on every migration, the key is really the users and to involve them at the right time. And the right time is really at the start, right? And the thinking with when you're doing a migration project needs to be, how do I really get as much value for my business users, and how do I create the best adoption possible? And speed really helps there, but also involve them in the process right away. Give them, and that's really one of our core values, give them the option to make their own decisions, right? So they're behind the analysis dashboard to look at their data and to give you input on how they would want to restructure or what they want to take over and not. And of course, there's more centralized policies that have to be taken into account, but you need to give them some freedom that really helps in adoption and drives the value for sure. Communication on the processes and the expectations as early as possible. We have some standardized templates on that, how you set up these projects, so you know when to expect input from your users, when to do some testing, and that's really helpful if you communicate it as soon as possible. And one of the key aspects we think is everybody needs to realize that a migration, it's not just something that needs to happen because IT has decided. It's really an opportunity for them to improve their data and to improve their way of working. And if that mindset is there, then that really helps the adoption, helps the success of the full project and success of the business. So that's really a key aspect. All right. So approaching these migrations, it's been a bit part of my flow. It's always an ETL flow. So here you see it again. You have a legacy system, you have a modern system. We connect through API. Sometimes there is no API because it's that old. You need to go directly through the database. Most of our connectors of these, what we call legacy systems, are on both. Not only because they're not there, but sometimes you need to optimize performance and you need to go through the database. And on the modern side, most of the times they have migration APIs that specifically are created to handle bulk ingest or bulk upload, and most of the times we connect through those. And yeah, connecting, that's really what our core business is, right? So we really put in effort to optimize those connectors and also the functionality of those connectors. So how it starts, it's always, of course, installing the Xillio software in combination with other software to increase performance, right, as you just learned. Yeah, that's where we start. It can be in the cloud, can be on-prem. Most of the times with these legacy environments we see on-prem, because that's where the system is and you want to be as close as possible. It's configuring the software and the connectors. Connectors configuration is also done, or you need also to configure to capture all the custom metadata, for instance, or just some customizations that are in the system. So that's done also on the connector side. And then extract. So extracting everything and move it into our unified data model to really dive into what's in the system. Another point we start with always is investigate also the target data models. They might not be known yet, and you might want to base them on what you find in the analysis. That's what we see, but sometimes, of course, it's known how you're going to work together, and that information is also good to have already at the start. So when everything is stored in the Xillio data model, then we can run the analysis through our Xillio Insights product. That's where we capture all the migration rules, so selection, mapping, etc. And we most of the times the output there is a migration design, but business can interact with the data to determine those rules. And with that, we know what's going to happen, so we can create a detailed plan for the actual transformation and import into the target system. Of course, you want to run tests, you want to run some acceptance criteria tests, and then when that's all set, it's time for production, and Delta imports can be quite an extensive process sometimes with a lot of volume, but when it's all set up, it's in a controlled way and you're in control of that process. Extensive reporting, as I already mentioned, it's really part of our standardized approach. We call it the audit trail, and it's the audit trail of the migration. So every object and every transformation, everything that happens with every object is accounted for. Let me check the time. All right. Our experience. So I've taken a few projects to talk about. It's most of the times large organizations because they have the large environments, and that's where we're specialized in. So to talk about a few, Mott MacDonald is actually one of the front runners for Microsoft Viva as well, previously Cortex, and they went from OpenText Content Server into Microsoft 365. Here, they really decided to determine through business logic a cutoff date if it was archive, which they moved to Azure, or if it was Microsoft 365, more the active SharePoint environment. And they also have put in place, using our technology, a flow to automate that process also while already being migrated. So when a project is archived or something is moved or has to be moved, it's automatically done from Microsoft 365 into Azure. Yeah, 240 terabytes, not small, but there are bigger ones. Financial Conduct Authority, also in the UK, this was LiveLink, so that's the older version of Content Server. We had some challenges there with the performance of the database, so here we used the database connector. That was definitely necessary, and here the compliancy part was very important. Also here we had to, because we weren't allowed, nobody was allowed to see the metadata even, but the business user. So we need to set it up on a test environment completely and then run it on a production. Yeah, fingers crossed that the test was the same as the production, but we made sure of that. So that was an interesting aspect there. And here also they combine network drives, and I have that as part of the demo as well. Most of the times we see that it's very interesting to combine different sources, because you have had they're most times polluted, or there's a lot of duplication between them. So it's easy to add those as an insight in our insight product. And sometimes it's already part of the scope, of course, but then the combination or the comparison is also very interesting. And here it was, there were a lot of duplicates between the two because they had that system for quite some time, and the integration with email was not perfect. So people were saving it on the network drive while it was also being uploaded in their document management system. So a lot of duplicates we could take out because of the comparison. Then this large, more than petabyte migration, it's done through one of our partners, and it's a combination of FileNet, old SharePoint environments, and network drives. And here you see it's not all going into Microsoft. Sometimes FileNet is still the target. It's here into a FileNet cloud combined with more the collaborative content. So that's really the business, the primary business processes that are in FileNet, and the collaborative processes are in Microsoft. Yeah, a big one. Interesting project. So those were a few of the projects. Then I want to just touch on some, maybe some I already explained, but just some tips and tricks on these migrations, and then show you a little video of a migration. So what's very important is that we use quantitative and qualitative analysis, right, to determine the approach and especially where we can add value. So that's always our key focus when we do these analysis. Not that we need to migrate, but how we really can add value doing it. And that's also what needs to be clear with the business, right? It's not just necessary evil, it's an opportunity to improve. So it's really important to also make that very clear with the business. I talked about this. This is one of our, with large environments, this works well. You want to start central with also your business logic and how you set it up, and then allow for local department or business unit specific business rules. It's tremendously important for adoption to have them part of their own decision making, the business, but yeah, it's also just how it works, because they are different in use, different in implementation. Sometimes they have different metadata models, so you can't really all take it from one central perspective. A sponsor for a first migration to share the success and increase trust in the organization. It's really helpful and as high up as you can get from a sponsor perspective. Take an agile approach. It doesn't need to be a full agile project because it's quite based, of course, but on the analysis, transformation, and building the business logic. Mostly the transformation side, we think it's very important to iterate, to do that in an iterative way and take an agile approach there. With these migration, you always want to identify archive, active, hot, and cold, however you want to call it. Consider cloud archives or custom solutions as an archive in Azure, AWS, etc. Just not everything in your active, collaborative, or document management system. I always want to stress that from our perspective, sometimes we see that organizations are struggling and don't want to move out yet because they're not sure about the access and API and getting everything out, and it's unstable maybe because it's old. We've always managed to do every migration. There's different techniques for everything. We can even go through the interface if it's there and scrape if there's really no backend anymore or nobody knows. So there's always a way. So don't take that see that as a big hurdle. Performance measures, it's really important because you need it as input for the planning. So take those try to find those as early as possible. So the connectivity to the target system, even though you have not set up everything completely yet in terms of transformation, make sure you do test the performance. End users, involve them from the very start. It's a bit of an open door, but it's very important also with migration projects. Sometimes they're seen really as a technical project, but try not to do that. Right, then I have a quick demo, and then we can dive into some questions that there possibly are. This is a FileNet system combined with file shares, and we're moving it to SharePoint Online. And we are using Insights, so the dashboards, and also our scripting environment in it. Well, fingers crossed that it all works. Let me kick it off. So maybe to pause here, this is our integrated development environment. So this is where actually also the scripting takes place, and this consultant use this also to kick off the migration. You can also use a more application layer on it, but here you see these are standardized modules that he kicks off. So the preparation, the export, the analysis. Export uses the connector, and that's all part of the platform and all standardized just to make migrations easy. That's basically where it comes from. So, and here he shows the source system. This is FileNet. This is a basic setup, just some folders, and they have some metadata. I think we're gonna, so this is a folder with a bunch of documents in it. Here's some metadata. We're gonna use specific metadata to determine if it's active or non-active. And we also have a file share. So there's a combination here between file share and FileNet. This is a summary. There's a larger video also online if you want to see that. So the extraction has started, everything is moved to our unified data model, and on that unified data model we run our insights. So here you see different insights. You have it split up per document type, per extension even. You can easily click to zoom in. You can look per document type only, see where you find patterns, see where you find things that might be interesting to use as a migration business logic. So here we looked into text quickly, and we're going to take that out of the migration. This is folders. You see folder names. This is actually sometimes something we use in file share migrations to determine the metadata that we're going to add. So you saw the word cloud. We take that on a file share and we see what could be interesting metadata for you to add. So here we're back at the interface where the consultant is running it from. He's running the transformation. So that's all been set up already. So not much to see there, but it's making sure that everything, so let me pause for a minute because it's going quickly. It's making sure that everything is in our unified data model. We have a source and we have a target component. So the source always stays the same and the transformation runs on the target. So making sure that everything fits the new model, that all metadata is filled, etc. So from our unified data model, our migration database, we're always in control of every step of the migration that we're running. And the migration actually is, so as from a demo perspective, it's a bit boring because you have a target system and you see it show up you have a source system and you see it show up in a target system as it is right now. Yeah, you can see it working. So here there's the split with archive and active documents, and the folders appear in SharePoint. You can of course take out folders and just migrate documents and add folder metadata with the document. So different techniques there. This was very quick, but there are more videos on our website, and if you want to have a demo live with us, also always possible. But that's wrapping up my part. I hope there are some questions. So back to Rue, back to Natalia.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think I've got some feedback on the mic there, but yeah, just want to say thank you. That's a wonderful presentation, and I think it's given people some really good insight into the power of the Xillio product. And you know, obviously, you can see, I think the audience can see there that this product is very mature. It comes built in with a lot of experience and a lot of capability, and you know, really looking at you know, taking this product to our customer base here in Australia, and you know, helping Xillio with providing a better outcome for their customers through use of Lightning Flow in conjunction with Xillio. So with that, I think let's throw out some questions. If there are any questions, please post them in the chat. I see there's one there, you know, just asking around what are some of the most common migration pitfalls. Xillio?
Migration pitfalls, yeah. With all the tips and tricks, I hope I covered most of them, but to really approach it from a technical perspective, that's a big one. Thinking you can script it easily yourselves. That's what we come in with quite some projects where the organization started it themselves from scratch, using scripts and using the import packages of systems. And so be careful there. There is a lot of it comes in handy if you have if you have a lot of experience on the approaches and how to approach these things. So yeah.
Okay. And then there's another one around what can a customer do ahead of a migration that can make you know, Xillio's job easier?
Yeah, good one. So mostly that is on probably aligning with the business in their expectations, also making sure you have the target system set up, and maybe most importantly, to make our life easier, have a server ready, a VM somewhere or multiple depending on the size, and access to the different environments. We see that most of the times to get everything started, that is probably the biggest bottleneck, just to get the accounts and all the security checks to get access, right? So that if you're already thinking about it, then start that process as soon as possible. That really helps.
Great. Those are good tips and good answers. I don't think there are any other questions coming through. I think we're bang on time anyway, so we were scheduled to finish at 12 o'clock. So thanks again to everyone who has attended. Thank you, Sjoerd and Team Xillio, for joining us today. We will follow up to all the registrations with the video, and we'll be happy to have a conversation around your interest and any potential migrations that you might have coming up that we could help you with. So with that, thank you very much, Sjoerd and Natalia, and everyone who attended.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.